It is Thursday, August 10th, 2023. This is another edition of Baseball Today. That is my man, Trevor Plouffe. I am Chris Rose. Producer Dan along for the ride as well. Occasionally, when you take your show on the road like I have this week, not everything works to perfection. So today I couldn't get my little earbuds to connect the right way. So I've got the old school, these are like woofers on my head right now, dude.
Yeah, you look like you're listening to Avril Lavigne and about to give someone your lunch money at school or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
These are nice.
Back in the 90s.
Yeah, these are nice. They're comfortable. They're great on a plane, though, because you can't hear shit from anybody else. So,
okay.
Yeah,
whose are those?
nice.
Michelle's?
No, these are mine. They're kind of ours. We share them. It depends.
Okay.
If one of us goes on a trip. Now, if we both go, then somebody's screwed. So, like Brady's got a pair with him in Japan, and we just kind of rotate them around.
Use that BattleBots money and get you another pair. Get you another.
I'm using that BattleBots money to put kids through school and stuff like that. That's what we're doing. Tip of the cap goes directly into our first topic. I would say Michael Lorenzen's first home start with the Philadelphia Phillies went pretty well.
The 3-2 pitch. Swung on, popped up, shallow center field. Rojas sprinting in, he's under it. He has space, makes the catch, and Michael Lorenzen has thrown the 14th no-hitter in Philadelphia Phillies history. He is being mobbed by his teammates as the Phillies shut out the Nationals 7-0.
I will get to our question about Michael Lorenzen momentarily, but I saw like in the 6th inning, he had a no-hitter. And you know what the first thing I do is I always check the pitch count to see where a guy's at.
Mm-hmm.
And then like through 7, I want to say he was like at 93 pitches or something like that. I was like, God, there's no way they're going to let him go. No way if he's at this number. I was so happy Rob Thompson talked to him, was like, listen, I'm here. I have to protect you, but how you feel? And, of course, the answer is going to be, I feel great. And he let him go and throw a career high in pitches, blew way past his previous mark. And just to watch his mom and his wife and the little baby girl who's wearing a T-shirt that says, have a nice day on the back, that was great, great stuff.
I always love the family reactions. It makes me, it gets me all in my feelings. They did a really good job there. And, Topper's really good about that. If you look who's on the mound, it's Michael Lorenzen. This guy is absolutely jacked. He's built. This guy can throw 200 pitches. All right. He's fine. This is what he works for. And if you go around the league and you talk to guys, Michael Lorenzen's one of the guys that they point out as, one of the better teammates in the league, just a really good guy. And like I mentioned, he works hard. So I love everything about this. Plus, he did it in the white vans, and I think it's cool. I don't know if Vans is paying him yet. I think he might just do that on his own, but I think there might be a little Vans little contract in place for him after this, because those are going to the Hall of Fame, baby. So I was watching this, and I was I was with you on the pitch count, but then I realized this guy's just a horse, dude. Like let him go as long as it takes. And after the game, he gave the speech in the clubhouse, and you really thank JT Realmuto. And I don't know if they're going to make any massive pitch repertoire changes with him. But last night he threw the changeup as his secondary pitch more than his slider. So that's something that he hasn't done too often this year. So Phillies got a workhorse, no doubt. But then he's gotten 2 really good outings. So I think the first one was 8 innings, and this one obviously went 9. He looks like a steal, man.
So that's really the bigger question here was the acquisition of Michael Lorenzen, at least in the baseball world, better than even anticipated?
Well, yeah. Nobody anticipated an 8 innings pitch and then a no-hitter.
I'm not talking about
one.
These first 2 starts. I'm talking about, is he going to mean more to this franchise? Because I think when he got traded there, certainly my reaction was, okay, he's had a solid year in Detroit, but it's nothing that moves the needle. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, but after the All-Star game, he started to turn it around a little bit, and his numbers got a lot better. So I think that, when maybe they brought him over as depth for their rotation and a guy that's going to, just give you a chance to win, maybe they're thinking a little bit more highly of him now after these last 2 starts. And maybe they say, hey, yeah, we can change some things around with his sequencing and what pitches he goes to in certain counts. I mean, that does matter. So if they could tap into something, that could be, like I said, one of the steals of the trade deadline. Looks like so far, right?
Yeah, it didn't do much for me when it happened. I have to be honest with you. I mean, it was a month ago, a little bit over a month ago, where I was saying Michael Lorenzen's going to the All-Star game. Like, I
Yeah,
know
we all said
everybody's
that.
well, not
I think
everybody.
he even said that.
Yeah,
sure.
to a degree, he did say that he felt, and I just was like, come on. I mean, he's had an okay year. Like, it wasn't great. He's still not a strikeout pitcher, and certainly in the first half, I think he had 66 strikeouts in nearly 90 innings of work. That means the ball's getting put in play an awful lot against him, and so that's why when they made the trade for him, I was like, oh, okay, they've got Wheeler, they've got Nola. They've got Taijuan Walker, Suarez. We'll see. And he just felt like a guy that maybe he'll fill some role if they get to the playoffs. But maybe he'll get a start now. Who knows?
I mean, they have, as I'm looking at their stat page right now, Christopher Sanchez, Suarez, Walker, and Wheeler are all in the threes with their ERA. Nola's the only guy in the fours. Then you add Lorenzen into the fold. So you got 6 guys that you can rely on to take the pill.
Yeah.
It's a nice feeling to have.
2 quick things before we move on from the Phillies. Nick Castellanos, congratulations. 200 career homers. That was awesome. But I thought the most amazing thing was Weston Wilson, who is a guy that has played parts of 8 seasons in the minor leagues. His first major league at bat wasn't a cheapie. It wasn't a cheapie. It went yard. And then the reaction of his family. I mean, it looked like there were 20 family members there. And after the no-hitter happened, I don't know if that's his wife. I didn't hear on the broadcast, or just his significant other. I apologize if it's, whatever. But just to look at the two of them sharing that moment while all this great stuff was happening with Michael Lorenzen, I kind of focused in on the two of them. And I got like a little emotional because guys don't sit around the minors for 8 years.
So I actually got to meet him this offseason. As I was talking to Cole Tuck about continuing to play. I hooked him up with a hitting coach out here, this guy named Brad Boyer, who works with a lot of the big leaguers in the LA area, old friend of mine. And we're going into the cage during a really wet LA winter. We were finding ourselves inside a lot at this facility out here. And him and Coach Tuck worked together this offseason with my guy Brad. So I was in there a couple different times watching him hit. This guy's strong as heck, and his swing was locked in during the offseason. I was asking, what's up with this guy? And I was talking to him, and yeah, I was surprised to hear that he had been kind of just toiling around the minor leagues for a while because everything was working right for him. And it is the cage and everything's controlled, but he looked like a big leaguer. And now him and Kotuck are up. So kind of a cool story. So shout out Brad Boyer, by the way, for getting these guys to the show, man.
That was fun. All right, let's move on. National League Wild Card will be jammed up the rest of the way, kind of like one of our freeways in Los Angeles. Unlike driving in Los Angeles, which is a pain in the ass, this is going to be a lot of fun for baseball fans. So Philly holds the top spot in the wild card. Then there's another half dozen teams that have realistic shots all the way down to the San Diego Padres. Who do you feel best about, and who do you feel the worst about?
Wow. Okay. I feel best about the Phillies, but I guess we just talked about them.
Same
so
here.
I don't want to. Yeah, I really do. I really like this Phillies team. I feel like they're getting their magical moments in that every World Series team has during the year. Like they have them. But I think it's the Giants, and we don't really talk about the Giants a lot because they're kind of to me they're kind of an enigma. Like I wonder how they continue just to win ball games. They're rolling out like essentially like a 2-man pitching staff, like a 3-man pitching staff at times, and then just piecing it together, piggybacking, openers, all this different stuff. But they're getting the job done. I believe Fangraphs has them as a 77% chance to make the playoffs or something like that, much higher than anybody else besides the Phillies of the teams that you mentioned. And if you kind of like look up and down the lineup, people early in the year were saying, hey, man, go look at Patrick Bailey, go look at Casey Smith. These guys have come up and they've done the job and they've really bolstered our team and everyone's really athletic. Well, Casey Smith just got sent out to the minor leagues. So like they're just figuring out ways to win, like they're converting on defense. They have timely hitting. They're figuring the pitching out. It kind of seems like a masterclass in how to use a roster, to be honest with you. And usually I don't give a lot of credit to managers, that. And Gabe, yes, right. Gabe is my buddy, but I really feel like him and the coaching staff there have just kind of figured out, what to do. And obviously they've had some really, good performances this year from Cobb and Webb. But again, like the starting staff is like non-existent almost. It's very impressive what they've done.
I mean, I'll just say the Phillies, they're in this discussion because in a week's time, we have seen teams go from a comfortable feeling of at least the second place wild card to not holding a wild card spot. So it can happen like that. So it's not like, I don't think we can all say, well, Philly can't be a part of this discussion because they've already punched their ticket. No, that hasn't happened. Sure. But I feel like they're the most complete team. In fact, I would say that they're the third best team in the National League, right? It goes Atlanta, LA, and then I would put them. I put them ahead of the Brewers. I would definitely put them ahead of the Marlins and the Reds and the Giants and the Diamondbacks and the Padres. So there you go. And I think Philly's a scary team. Yeah.
I better mention Wilmer Flores because Giants fans don't like when you
You're
forget
right.
to mention Wilmer Flores. He's been great for them this year. So
really dependable pro, man. Good player. He can play a lot of different places.
Wait, hold on one second. Hold on one second. What was I just going to ask? I had something for you with Philly.
Bullpen. That's always
no.
fun.
Who did you have in the World Series this year?
I had the Padres and the Blue Jays, I believe. So that's
still a chance.
Sure, still a chance.
Still a chance.
Absolutely.
I think I had Phillies over the Yankees.
Well,
the way the Yankees fans talk, it's like the season's over. But maybe.
It was really interesting what Juan Soto said. I think it was after last night's game in Seattle where they continued to not hit. He said, we have guys that are basically giving up, like field defeated. We got to get our shit together. And it's not that's not a young team. Like that's a veteran team. Let's see what you got.
Let's sack it up, boys. Come on. It's August. So what?
Very quickly, let's pick the team we're most worried about. And for me, it's the Arizona Diamondbacks. They are 5-17 since the break. 5-18 after they lost last night. Merrill Kelly had to leave early. I think it was just a cramp. OPS has been sub 700 since the beginning of July, and I think it's down to sub 600 in the early month of August. So I'm worried. I didn't think they did. I know they got Sewald, who obviously gave up a pretty big homer recently in Arizona. I didn't think they did enough with the starting rotation, and at this rate, I think I'd be surprised if they finish above 500. And I hate to say that because I really like Torey Lovello.
I mean, they've lost 8 straight. And, I guess I could put them up there. I'm kind of worried about the Reds. I mean, there was just so much hype around them. And we always talked about, look, it's a lot of young guys on that team for them to continue to do what they've done offensively is going to be tough. I think it's taken a step back. And then the pitching staff is just, they're not healthy and it's not there yet for me. So I want them to do well because that was so fun when they went on that run. I'm worried about them a little bit.
The difference between them and the Reds is the Reds do have some additions coming, right? Lodolo and Green.
Yep.
We'll see if
those guys got to come back and be dogs.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Hey, Bally Sports is the home of local baseball coverage, right? It's how the Brewers fans watch their Brew Crew. It's how the Tigers fans watch their team in Detroit. Marlins fans watch their team in Miami, and so on and so on. Now, new pitch clock rules. It's changed the game for the better. There's less downtime. There's more action. We get to see more athleticism. There's a faster pace. We as baseball fans almost universally give it the thumbs up, which is awesome. There's just one teeny tiny problem with the pitch clock. There's no time to drink those big old tall boys anymore. So shorter games call for shorter beers. And with these shorter games, Bally Sports is having what's called a short boy summer. Bally Sports has created Short Boys. It's 8.4-ounce can of delicious baseball beer. So it's crisp. It's refreshing. The can's stubby, but it's substantial and only available in select markets. So shorter games, shorter beers. It's time for your Short Boys summer. Watch shorter games on Bally Sports and streaming on the Bally Sports app today. Yankees are on the...
Hold on.
What?
Do you remember Damn Daniel? Like, damn, Daniel, back at it again with the white pants. You don't remember that?
No, sorry.
Someone in the chat just wrote that because Lorenzen was wearing... But you don't remember Damn Daniel? I never put two and two together until who is this? Mooch in the chat. Oh my gosh, that's really good. Go after the show. Go watch Dan Daniel.
Sorry, gang. But this is why we love people when they join us in our app because you can contribute to this. We'll give you props whenever you. And then after the show is done on the podcast and the YouTube side of things, we chop it up for a half hour with our audience, which is great.
There it is.
Oh, there you go.
Do it. Come on, bro.
All right, go ahead, Dan. Let it rip.
Damn, Daniel. Damn, Daniel. Back at it again with the white man.
All right, that's it. Good call. Very, very good call, Mooch. Nice. Yankees lost on the south side yet again. Maybe the most interesting part of that game was the story surrounding Keenan Middleton. We all know what happened with him. Traded by the White Sox to the Yankees at the deadline. Then he came out and told Jesse Rogers of ESPN that his old team, the White Sox, they didn't know how to run a clubhouse. No accountability. Caused a big brouhaha. Well, when he came in and pitched, his name was nowhere to be found on any scoreboard. You know how they show the diamond up on the big board and who's playing where defensively? They left the pitcher's mound blank. You okay with this? Or does it seem kind of petty?
Here's the quote from the White Sox. The omission was not intentional, but resulted because of duplicate players listed under one uniform number on MLB's downloadable Yankees roster. And they go on to say it's happened from time to time because I guess computers don't know how to, put a guy's name up there. I don't know. I mean, they said they deny it, so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt there. It's kind of fishy, I would say. The one thing I do want to go back on the Keenan Middleton thing is Rick Hans mentioned how it was ironic that Keenan was the guy to say this since just a few weeks ago he came and apologized to him for being unprofessional. Right. What I would say to Rick Hahn is that's pretty professional when you take ownership of a mistake that you make.
Oh, good. That's a great point.
So I find it ironic that you're using that example of someone actually taking ownership and being professional as something that's unprofessional, Rick. How about that? So I don't know about this thing last night. It's kind of silly. I don't think it's that big of a deal, and maybe it is just a glitch. But the White Sox are a disaster. A disaster.
This season cannot end fast enough for that team on the South Side. Yes, I am familiar with computers doubling up because I use a computer program for my NFL games to prep. And at this time of year, because there's so many guys on the team, they often have duplicate uniforms. Okay, so there's two guys wearing number 48 on the Browns, for example. If I put one of their numbers in as I'm prepping, only one guy shows up. And the other guy doesn't show up, so we have to make him jersey number 48.1 or something, which you obviously can't do on a major league scoreboard in baseball. So I understand it from that side. That sounds way too weird, though. Way too coincidental that the dude who just took a flamethrower to your franchise is the one whose name we didn't notice. Huh.
Now we have another person in our AMP chat saying Middleton's mom said that Keenan's kids weren't allowed in the daycare yesterday. I got no way to confirm that. I mean, I don't know. Chai Baleli, let me know where you found that. We'll check it out.
Well, but he's a visiting player. Do they have visiting player rooms? Okay, they do.
Typically, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Something else to look at. If that is true, that's some serious bullshit.
I'd have to go and seize the policies. Maybe he was trying to drop them off like, hey, we were just here playing for your team. Can we drop the kids off and they play them? These are a bunch of his friends. Right? Can you do that? And most of the time, guess what they're going to say? Sure.
Yeah. Well, what would you do if you were the White Sox? Let's say it played out that way. And once again, we don't know what happened. And we're not going to say,
yeah,
it happened this way or it didn't happen that way. But what would you have done if you were the White Sox and the little Middletons wanted to play with their friends?
It's their kids, dude. You take care of kids.
Thank you. Thank you.
The kids have nothing to do with what Dad said.
Could you imagine holding a grudge that bad if that's the case? Once again, we have no idea what happened. We're going to have to read into the story. And it's just something that's floating out there. Woo! Move on to something else. Shohei did it again. Giants pitched great, kept the Angels at least moderately alive. Really interesting discussion that Dwayne Kuiper, Mike Krukow, one of the best broadcasting teams around. They have been together for decades. They do a phenomenal job. I know that both those guys have been fighting health issues the last several years, and so they're not on the road together nearly as much as they used to be. They were there when Barry Bonds was doing his thing 20 years ago as well. And so with Ohtani being such a big part of the Angels last night, pitching and hitting, this discussion came up with Kruk.
We've for the longest time felt that 73 home runs in a season. And Bonds got walked, I forget, with over 100 times intentionally. And he still put up 73. I think Ohtani has a chance of breaking that record.
Now, my ears perked up when I heard that. Do you agree with him?
I mean, if you're going to list guys that have a chance to hit 73, Ohtani's at the top of the list. It's him and Judge, basically. I don't know who else you'd really even put in the category. Like Stanton could be there, but he'd have to play. You got to play 162 to really do this. It's Shohei Ohtani. I guess that's my feeling. Is every single day we're writing something that's he's done something that's never been done before. Well, guess what's never been done before? 74 homers. So, like, I wouldn't put it past Shohei Ohtani to be able to come close to that, put these runs together, because he does have ridiculous pop. Now, it depends kind of where he goes, because they mentioned, Bonds did get walked so many different times intentionally. And I think we haven't seen that with Ohtani yet. But if he was on some sort of crazy pace like that, maybe we would. But he definitely has the pop to do it. I think it's a possibility. I don't want to put like a high percentage on it, because that's just so many home runs, Chris. So many. Yeah. But he has the strength and the hitting ability to do it. So it's there.
Do you think he could do it in a year where he also pitches? I don't know if he could.
I think he could. Yeah, dude, he's one dotting it right now, 1.076, and he's been pitching. He's got 40 homers right now.
I know, but do you know how far that is? We're talking about another 34 home runs he would have to hit from this point forward.
Shohei is a guy that, like, he has 40 right now. It's August 10th. Like, he could get to 60. Like, he could hit him in bunches like that.
Dude,
so,
I'm with you, but do you understand how much more 73 is? 60 would be ridiculous. It would be one of the greatest seasons, maybe arguably the greatest season in sports history, not baseball history, in sports history. So then you're talking about adding another 14 after that.
Let's see what his home run totals have been through the months, because to do that you have to average over 12 homers a month.
Right. Well, his July was certifiably insane.
So 12 homers a month. He's done it only once. It was in June. That was 15. So he had 7, 8, 15, 9. He's only hit one in August so far. He's honestly not too far off the pace, like, but within those first 4 months. So it's a lot. And I'm not saying it's probable that's going to happen, but if you're talking about guys that can actually accomplish it, I think it's him and Judge. Maybe Alonso, but I don't think so. I think it's Judge and him, and it might actually only be him. No, Judge can do it too. I don't want to take that away from him.
I think that Judge has a better chance.
You think so?
Yeah, I do. I think it's too much to ask Shohei Ohtani to pitch and to hit 74 home runs. I just don't. First of all, the number 73. How well do you remember the home run chase of 98?
Fairly well. I was 12 years old. It was a big moment in my life. I mean, I've talked about it on this show before. It took the nation by storm. It transcended baseball. It was a whole different thing. And I mean, I remember it fairly well.
Yeah. I had a chance to go to a couple of games where McGuire visited Cleveland that year. We were visiting my parents at the time. And the electricity, now Cleveland, our team was awesome. But when he came that day, it was incredible. When he stepped up to the plate, and we didn't have the same magic when Bonds was doing it a couple of years later, just because it had been done a few previous years and whatever. But listen, I hope somebody threatens it one day. I love it when we get to those numbers. I root for it to happen, and I would love to see Shohei do his thing. So there you go. Today's episode, Baseball Today, sponsored by our friends over at Shady Rays. We still want you to take on the sun with gear that is built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays, they have you covered with premium polarized shades at a very affordable price. How affordable? There's a brand new offer out there. Now you can get 30% off the custom Jimmy and Jake collab shades with the code JM30. I just saw both pair of shades up there when we were doing floorball this past weekend. They are fresh. They are cool. I was like, can I get a pair? They're like, yeah, you can get 30% off. Just use the code JM30. So Shady Rays offers a world-class product, just as good as any expensive pair ever worn. They got the durable frames. They got the crystal clear optics. And they got the most insane protection in the history of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses backed by lost and broken replacements, which means if you lose them or you break them on day one, you call up, you don't complain, you don't have to give them excuses. They just say, no problem, Mr. Rose. We got your address on file. We'll be sending them out immediately. And when you say, well, don't you want to hear my sob story? No. They want to make those tears go away. You'll get a new pair of shades quickly. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head on over to shadyrays.com. Use the code TODAY for 50% off 2+ pair of polarized shades. And you can get 30% off the limited edition Jimmy and Jake collab shades with the code JM30. You might not be Jimmy and Jake, but you can look as cool as them with the code JM30. Before we get out of here for the day on the podcast and the YouTube side of things, I think a first for anybody that's been watching baseball for decades at Fenway Park. Ball hit the light and stuck at the board. And, I mean, the look on Yoshida's face is like, where the hell did this thing go? And sure enough, it's stuck in one of the big red lights. Be careful sticking your hand in there. I don't want you getting cut up or anything. So the bigger question is, Green Monster, overrated or underrated? You can only pick one.
It's rated pretty high. I'll go with underrated. I love it. I love Fenway. Whenever anyone asks me what my favorite place to play was on the road, I say Fenway. There's just something about it. It looks so different. Obviously, the history is still there. You realize like how many people have walked down that tunnel when you go from the clubhouse to the dugout. The dugout's just a piece of crap. It's so little. I love it. Like you gotta you're with the boys there. Like you don't even need to sit down. You can't even see. I love everything about Fenway. I wish more places had like kind of unique stuff. I don't like cookie cutter ballparks. I want different stuff. I want to have to go into a ballpark and learn how to play the terrain. I like it. So I'm a big fan of it. You never know if the ball's gonna hit a ladder, break through a light. There might be a guy poking his head out through the scoreboard, might hit him. I think it's awesome. So I'm a big fan. Underrated.
Me too. Have you signed the inside of the wall?
I have.
I have too. And it's pretty neat. Just peering out through the little slits they've got in the wall is pretty damn special. It's just fantastic. And I don't know. I had a chance to try and field some balls off the monster one time. It's crazy. I mean, it was, for me, just a lifelong dream to do something like that. Yeah, that's great.
We had the I'll talk about the rest on the
amp
amp portion. Yeah. So hey, go get the amp.
Yes, please
go get the amp. Who am I? That sounds
just
like an
download amp,
man.
Just download amp. We don't have to throw the in front of it. We're back at it again on Friday, so if you want to join us live, we think it'll be right around noon Eastern,
yes.
9 a.m. Pacific, and so that'll do it. For our one-of-a-kind producer, Dan Rourke, the uber-talented Trevor Plouffe, I am Chris Rose. We will see you Friday on Baseball Today.